We are having one of the weirdest Julys I think I've ever seen. It has stormed more than it has been 100 degrees. I'm not even sure how many days we hit 100, but it wasn't a lot. Very, very different weather for South Texas. But the plants, the okra specifically, are loving all the water. And now it's time to read. Hey y'all, welcome to the family that reads a lot. We actually haven't been reading a lot, to be honest. July has been nuts. We had a family camping trip where we spent most of the time on the water. Didn't read much at all there because there were cousins and things, and the kids played and had a blast. Then came home and had a hurricane, which knocked out power and everything else. So we were just kind of running from crisis to crisis, dealing with things. We're fine, our home is fine, everything else, but it was a week of craziness. Then my son and I went to his youth camp for the year and did that, or for an entire week, and did that. And same thing, activity to activity to activity. And honestly, they have not been reading that much. And that's okay. We go through these seasons. That's why, we read when we do, and when we don't, that's okay too. So these are actually things that we read before all of this started. So I'm going to try and remember as best as I can about each of the books. But this week there's camps. Next week there's camps, but then we kind of are done. And summer goes by the wayside. We get back to our regularly scheduled program. We're starting homeschool, all of that in the next couple weeks. So it's going to be back to normal for us and back to more reading for us. But still have 6 books today. So one of them I've already reviewed in a different way, but my son read. So I'll start with, I'm going to start with a DNF for my daughter. I don't let my kids DNF a ton of books, but she just could not get into this book. This is a Bluebonnet book for this year. It's, won awards. It's got the cutest picture in the world on it. She just didn't like it. It is written in verse, so not crazy long or anything, but she said that the way the writing was written, it was very hard to understand. I think it was very choppy. There's an injury to the otter at the beginning, and she said that it was like, you're listening to it from the otter's perspective, but it was just really hard for her to understand exactly what was going on and why it was going on and all of that. So I had her continue to read it for a few days when she first came to me and was like, I can't get into this. I let her go ahead and read it for the first few days, and then I asked her, I was like, because she was just, didn't want to read, didn't want to sit down and do it. And she's like, I just don't like it. And I said, okay, sometimes we have to quit a book. And sometimes with kids especially, if you keep pushing and pushing them to read a book they don't like, they go against reading altogether, and I don't want that. So this was a book that she had to DNF, and that's okay. To go back to basics, so daughter is 8, son is 11. Both read mostly middle grades now. She still reads some upper elementary. He'll still read upper elementary. I mean, it's kind of, they'll read down from what they can read. They can both read middle grades. So that's where we're at. But yeah, so that was a DNF for her. It is what it is. Now, a book that she did finish, but honestly, she didn't love as much as I thought she would. So this is Heartwood Hotel Better Together. This is the 3rd book in the series. And she started the series like last Christmas, I think, was when she got the first book, and absolutely loved it and just thought it was the best thing. And I bought her the 3rd book for something. I don't know if I ordered it or it was a holiday or something like that. But it ended up getting stuck to the back of her reading list, and now it was almost too simple for her. So this is a smaller book. It's not really big. It has some cute pictures in it. And she enjoyed it by the end of it. It's 160 pages. The author is Kallie George, but she said the story was almost too simple. Like, not that much happened. And I think that's because over this summer, she's really transitioned to a lot of middle grades where there's a huge amount of character development. You really get the backstories and you get a lot of action and things like that. This is more of just a sweet story. And so, like I said, she still read it. She still enjoyed it. It's just, I feel like she's transitioning to that point where she really wants more from a book. However, if you have a younger kiddo, say maybe like 3rd grade and down-ish, I highly recommend these books. She gobbled the first 2 up and loved them. They're sweet stories. They're about animals who live in the woods, and they have this hotel inside of a tree. Like I said, it's truly sweet, sweet story. I think it was just not where she's at this summer. Now, all right, I guess I'll jump into one that I pre-read for our school. So this is Wild Like the Foxes by Anatua Ford Blackmore. This is a required book for my son's school next year. It's From the Good and the Beautiful. He's doing a book study on it. So I read this book just to know what was going on so we could discuss it as his school year progresses. It's a fairly short book, 150 pages. I wouldn't say this was the most exciting book by any means. It's a story that teaches about an Inuit child. Can't remember where they're supposed to be. This is why I review books quickly after I read them, because I do forget. But basically you start the story off. They're a trapping family. Her father, her brother, and her mother, they end up losing her mother in like the first very few pages, so there's no spoilers there. But it's a tough story. It deals with a lot of loss and a lot of change. There's good people, bad people. So all in all, it's a good book. It's just not like the most exciting book I've ever read. So that was another one that I did. Now, I guess the one that I would say is the winner of this group. I read this one not as a pre-read or anything. This is a middle grades book that I picked up for myself. This is Deep Water by Watt Key. Just happened to kind of come across Watt Key on the shelves, and I really, really enjoyed this book. I'm always one for a good like survival story, and that's exactly what this is. So the main character, I'm trying to remember her name, Julie, goes out on a diving trip. She's helping her father, who runs a diving business. She goes out on a diving trip, gets stranded in the water. It's really good survival story, really fun. I really enjoy. I wouldn't say fun, like it wasn't funny, but it was action-packed. It was interesting. Just thoroughly enjoyed this book. I'm definitely going to check out a few more of his books and see if they're all as enjoyable as this. I've looked up some of the others and I'm not sure they're quite along the same lines, but if you like a good survival story, this was a good one. Next, my son read Snowstruck. This was in one of the videos I did recently because I read it. He enjoyed it substantially more than I did. And I think that that's because this is written for his age group, right? This is a middle grades book. He didn't mind the things that bugged me, that I felt like were kind of like, really? This isn't, you could do better. But he didn't find any problem with those. He gave this 5 stars. He really enjoyed it. So this is another Nick Courage book. I thoroughly enjoyed the first one. That was Stormblown. Did not enjoy this one as much, but my son did. So there you get two perspectives, and sometimes that's a good thing because an adult reading a middle grades book is going to take it differently than a kid reading a middle grades book. This one is one he grabbed at the used bookstore a while back. It's The Enemy Above. It's a story of World War II. Believe the Nazi invasion is going on. I don't know a ton about this one. He's gotten into some of the war stories, so he grabbed this one. He gave this one a 4.5, not because he didn't like something about the story, but because there is the death of a main character towards the end of the book. And he said it was a main character who you became really invested in and you really liked. So that's always a tough one. This is by Michael P. Spradlin. But like I said, he thoroughly enjoyed the book. He just didn't like that part of it. So yeah, so that's our group of books for right now. Like I said, hopefully back to regularly scheduled programming, normal reading, normal activities, stuff like that. I actually think we're going to do a lot more reading right now because it is hot, y'all. It's so hot here in Texas. We are at the end of July and it is miserable. 100-degree days, stuff like that. So we will be spending quite a bit of time inside reading. At least I know I will. So yeah, so we'll get you some more books in the very near future. If you liked what you saw, give us a like, subscribe, and come back for more book reviews. Thanks. Bye.